I snapped out of it, and I said, where did that come from? Well, within 30 seconds, Mr. Marquis came up, grabbed the student next to me by the throat, lifted him off the ground, and slapped him across the face. Now, that scared the crap out of me, because now I don't have anybody to talk to. I said, what just happened to me? How did that happen? I mean, I think that would probably flummox somebody even if they're an adult right now, but imagine being a child.
Well, and how old were you at that, Niles?
Whatever age you are, that's the other thing is I don't keep numbers for some reason. I'm not sure why. I just kind of go with the flow, but it was around 4th or 5th grade.
Okay, so about 10, sure. 11.
Yeah, but then I started to realize I could do things that other people couldn't do, or it wasn't normal to do. And I kind of kept quiet about it because it was kind of freaky, and I was kind of scared of it, and there really was nobody to talk to about it. I mean, it's just like this UFO thing now. I mean, I'm here to tell people what happened to me and do the best job I can and not put any sugar on any of this, because I'm not here to do that. So that the truth gets out there. But back then, I mean, you were Fruit Loops. And I mean, now people still look at you as Fruit Loops. There is a kind of, I don't know, distrust. There's more now, I guess. It's become more mainstream that, oh, yeah, it could be. But most people kind of look at it with a jaundiced eye.
No, so, I disagree. I think it's been a big change in the last probably 10 years. And it's not like it used to be. You know, when I had whatever happened to me in the mid-'70s, I didn't go around telling anybody about it. Even when I was in broadcasting, I kind of left that alone because, you know, I was scared if I say, hey, I saw this bright light, we pulled out, people would look at me strange. Nowadays, because so many people are seeing UFOs, I think that people are starting to realizing we're not the only humanoids walking around. And they are now accepting it a lot more. So when somebody says, I was abducted, they're not going to look at you strange unless you start saying there's 25 million, UFOs cloaked going around the earth to protect us, then they might look at you strange. But, to like what happened to you when you were 8 years old, in that bunk bed, just think about that. An 8-year-old kid going through something like that, Niels, that would be so hard emotionally, even if you went to school the next day, it's going to be implanted in your mind. It's going to make it hard to want to go to bed at night and get a good night's sleep, because you're going to always be scared something is going to come back. Oh, yeah. I have, and so I'll get to the other part. I'm trying to go up the progression slowly, but I have PTSD. If my present wife, she knows if she's going to wake me up out of a sound sleep, she needs it to be at the bottom of the bed. Because I literally wake up with my hands clenched, and I'm ready and my heart rate is already up. And that happened because of that. And I happened to find out from my eldest son that he has the same thing. And that's because we get taken at night. And the reason you get taken at night is because of where your brainwaves are. You're more susceptible. You're easier to mind control at that point. And that's why most people are taken in their sleep. Not everybody. Some people can be popped out in front plain daylight. But that's what happens. So yeah, I have a lot of baggage from that. Well, I'm sure you would. And that is something that's always going to be with you to the day you die. I mean, the fear, when you go to bed at night, seriously, the fear, wondering if you're going to be abducted again, and go through whatever you go through. I mean, that is a horror in itself, worse than any movie you could ever see in a theater. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just telling you, that's my automatic response. I mean, I'm kind of okay with them coming to do what they do because, we had talked earlier, that I haven't really suffered any bad maladies except for those burns I showed you. For me, this is just part of my life. It's been going on for so long that I'm kind of used to it.
I don't know if that's kind of like, what are they called, the Stockholm syndrome. You know, you kind of just go along with it.
That's what it sounds like to me.
It could be. It could be. But
how are you going to stop it, Niels? It's no way you can sit there and say, hey, you can't, I don't want to be abducted. You know, once they mark you and they start doing whatever they do, and I've heard this so many times from people who have been abducted, you know, it's an ongoing thing, you know, like look at Whitney. I mean, and some of these famous people that it happens quite often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. And that there really is nothing and as far as there's part of me that knows all the answers, so part of it bubbles up. So when a question comes, I kind of already have the answer, but I don't have the full picture. There's something like runs in the background. But me, my sons, and I don't know. By now, there's probably millions of people have been taken. Way back when, I think that it was like, I don't know, it was tens of thousands. But now I'm sure there's probably, I'm going to guess, millions of people that have been taken.
Wouldn't doubt that. And I'm just kind of curious, out of those millions, I wonder how many of them are the originals.
Oh, I don't know.
That's the other thing. It makes me wonder sometimes, too, because, you know, that when you're abducted, I mean, you know, it's quite common where they, like with women, they take their eggs, they take their DNA, they implant them with, you know, a pregnancy, you know, the hybrid, all this stuff. And you don't know. And it's so many people, too, have gone missing. Yeah. So, you know, maybe out of all the millions of people that have been abducted through the years, you know, only a small percentage of them get returned.
Well, I've been we're having this
You've
conversation,
been lucky.
But I'm thinking that something's ended badly, and it probably depends on which race and what their intention is, because there's a lot of different species that come here. You know, it's not just grays. There's a bunch. And the government's complicit, and the aliens are complicit, and it's going to go round robin like that. So when we get to the part about disclosure, I'll give you my opinion about how that's going to go. It's not. Unless something really dire happens, they will go kicking and screaming, the government I'm talking about, to actually tell you what's been going on, because there's blood on their hands.
Well, how can they? Well, look, let's go back to Roswell. We can even go back to World War II with the Foo Fighters, you know, with the pilots and the crew of the bombers, you know, and the fighters saw these UFOs. But let's face it, they lied in Roswell. They first announced it was a UFO. I seen pictures of, you know, taken during that time frame when that so-called weather balloon slid and took out a whole bunch of trees. And we're not talking little trees. We're talking huge trees, and slid a couple 100 feet and came a stop against, you know, a bunch of huge rocks. Okay. Yeah. And come on, you know, then they said it was a weather balloon the next day after they opened their mouth and said, hey, we got a crashed UFO with bodies. You know, come on. The government has lied so much, and not just our government, all governments, because they think that the people, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think the people in the 40s, 50s could really even handle the government coming out and saying there's UFOs and there's aliens and we're being visited, because remember Orson Welles, War of the Planets. Now, naturally, that was before TV. But people are listening to another radio show, and then they flipped on to that, you know, that radio play.
Since Halloween night.
Yeah, and guess what? People started panicking because they didn't hear the first disclaimer saying this is a radio play. What they heard is the aliens were coming into towns and killing people. I remember reading where a farmer killed his wife and his kids because he was so afraid that the aliens were going to come in, and and he thought it was better to, you know, put his family out, you know, and being, I'm saying more, showing more mercy than letting the aliens do it. People jumped out even the buildings, because they got scared. Now, nowadays, if you put something on the radio or TV like that, whoever did that is going to be in prison.
Oh, yeah.
But what happens is the people weren't educated enough. Their knowledge of, what is going around them wasn't enough. We just got out of a major war, World War II, and, the people wouldn't, I don't think, would have absorbed it, So I think that's why they covered it up. And once they covered it up, when everything else comes, they had to keep covering it up.
Well, there's also kind of I don't know if you know of this, but a horrible little secret that there were human remains found in that because they were collecting. So those were found there, and that kind of scared the shit out of, excuse me, I swore, the people there, because the implications that they weren't just here visiting, that they were actually taking. This was before the cattle mutilations. There were parts in there that weren't alien. I mean, there were aliens, but there were also us. There were parts of us in there.
Yeah, I remember something about legs and arms and stuff like that, and some other stuff.
And supposedly our first laser came from there, because that's, if you hear about those precision cuts that are done on the cattle mutilations, they found the device to use to do that, and that's where our laser came from. But that's, I guess that's hearsay, but it makes sense.
Well, it's scary, and and it's only involved more than that, because in South America and Brazil, the rainforest, I have pictures on my computer of mutilations, not of cattle. I got plenty of those, but I got some also of humans. Where certain objects out of the body have been removed. Done in put it this way, when you worked at the hospital, they couldn't even do it with their laser equipment. That's how accurate this stuff is done.
Oh yeah, because they're way, way, way more advanced than we are. But that's their technology. Humans are, from what I understand, interesting because we have aspects that they want. We have empathy, we have joy, we have, and this is a key thing, free will. We are not a hive mentality. We can think what we want, do what we want. We have kind of drive. They've lost all that. They don't have that. They're cold. I think we talked about that.
No compassion.
They're the way they are. They don't really have emotion. They can feign emotion. They can make you think that. I'll tell you a story about when I cross country. But what I'm going to get to is that generally when you're taken on board, it's very cold and clinical. It's go here, sit here, do this, do that, and then lots and lots of questions. They seem to be very key on human reaction and how we respond to things and what do you think about this. They're trying to learn. They're not human. They're alien, so they don't think like we think. And we're kind of like a jewel because we think absolutely in a totally different way than they think. So that part kind of marvels them. Other than they also want us for genetic material because they're a dying race and they're trying to beat the clock. And that's why they're doing all this hybridization and so on and so forth.
Well, do you remember any being in the craft, and do you remember laying on some type of platform, table, or anything that, and the bright lights and?
Oh yeah, yeah. As I told you, I've been on the craft, and here's the funny part. And this is how I know somebody else is telling the truth. I'm not going to talk about him tonight, but I know he's telling the truth because when you're in there, try to find a light source. You can't see it. There's no spotlight, or it's like it comes through the walls. And the walls I have yet to see on a craft to be straight up and down, or right angles, or corners. Everything is like smoothed out and curved. And it's a kind of funny feeling. And it's very kind of sterile. You're not seeing any, knickknacks or posters or fearless leader or this or that. Everything is very clean. But yeah, I was laid down for one of the things where I was told that my thyroid was bad, and I didn't have any evidence of my thyroid being bad. This is not when I was a child. This was when I was older. I know what those symptoms are, and I didn't, and they told me, no, this needs to be done. So I'm laying on this table,